Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Classic Comics. The president of Marvel Comics, Dan Buckley, has given an interview which is available on icv2.com. Now, I'm not going to go through this whole interview because it's pretty long, first of all. And this is just part one. There's a part two here. What I want to do is focus on an article at comicsbeat.com by Heidi McDonald, which focuses on comic sales in particular. So I'm just going to go through this article instead of the whole interview. Milton Gripe has done it again. He's given a two-part interview with Marvel president Dan Buckley. This is Buckley's first interview in a long time. As always, you should just go read everything, but I can't resist a few comments and quotes. Getting Buckley's perspective on these uncertain times is certainly invaluable. And two things he hits on several times: the importance of having fun making comics and bringing back foot traffic to stores. Okay, so bringing back foot traffic. Him saying that traffic needs to be brought back to stores, of course, implies that traffic is down. And of course, that begs the question, why is traffic down? Now, as you'll see in this interview, the main culprit he gives is the pandemic. Basically, that's why traffic is down in stores. That's why sales are down. And it's certainly not for any other reason, according to him. As he mentions, retailers report that regular Wednesday warriors who come in week after week are a dwindling tribe. Why could that be? And getting them to pick up the habit again is a crucial goal. Getting the staff back in the same room after pandemic isolation is a key component of planning to do this. He's also a big supporter of Comic Pro's metadata project. If you were wondering if publishers are going to cooperate on this, as we have been told several times, they will have to. Of the overall market with its many channels, he notes the following. Quote, "As I said, I think there's a lot of change, but I feel good about the industry. There's just some habits and new practices we'll need to get to. I don't know exactly what they are, but we're experimenting and playing with different things to take advantage of those changes. I also feel the direct market is in a much better place than most people think it is, but I will admit there's some challenges there as we try to find our way out of the pandemic." See, so he's talking about the pandemic. I mean, it's what we're in the middle of 2024. And in most places, I'd say the pandemic and the lockdowns and all that were pretty much over by the end of 2021. I'd say certainly by probably mid 22, if that was over. So we're coming up on 2 years out of this. But according to them, that's still the problem. We have to find a way to get people in the habit of going back to stores more. Let's get the Wednesday Warriors back. Yeah, well, maybe if you gave them a reason. To his credit, Gripe asks the tough questions, and Buckley addresses them, sort of. Of Marvel's constant launching of miniseries, he says they will be going longer with some series, hoping to get all the way to issue 20. Wow, all the way to issue 20. That is the intent, because to be honest, it's a lot of work on our editorial staff, too, to restart books all the time. There's a lot of work on our marketing staff to remarket a book coming out. It's to the benefit of everyone to figure this out. Okay, well, again, constant launching of miniseries. And he says it's all this work to restart these books all the time, to remarket a book. Why don't you just create regular series and keep them going instead of ending books and then relaunching them over and over again? And of course, they're doing that because nobody's buying these books, and nobody is buying these books because they suck. But he's not going to admit that. Of Marvel's lackluster bookstore performance, he admits, quote, "Marvel's been a little less aggressive in that space than, say, our distinguished competition and some other folks over the years. We as Marvel have to do some things in how we present our product and market it to get even more growth out of that space. I feel pretty good with where we're going. As far as that goes, it's fair to point out that working with licensing partners who are successful at getting Marvel's characters out there isn't a bad thing. As for important projects, Marvel is also launching their own all-ages comic this summer. Spidey and His Amazing Friends, a bargain priced bundle for younger readers that launches in August, and will alternate monthly with Spider Man Classroom Heroes, a middle grade title. Marvel will also continue with media ties, including a push for Deadpool and Wolverine's 50th anniversary to go along with this summer's Deadpool and Wolverine film. And of course, there's the question that will launch a dozen YouTube screeds. Over the past decade, and you alluded to this earlier, Marvel has very successfully expanded the demographics of its audience. That's led to an overall growth in the opportunity, whatever that means, which almost everybody regards as a positive. But there is the thought from some quarters that that led to a decline in appeal for that old core audience of teen and young adult males. What are your thoughts on that? And this is where we get to it right here. This is kind of the nugget I wanted to do this article for. I don't think the broadening of our audience had anything to do with it. If there was some degradation in our appeal with teen and young adult males, if we weren't making the right product to resonate with them out of the core publishing business, that was on our content plan, not on the broadening of our content and demographics. Our sales don't indicate that we have a huge problem. Obviously, the pandemic created a bunch of white noise. We have to continue to do a better job leveraging the demographic tentacles that have been created by the success of our games team and the studios team and Spidey and His Amazing Friends on Disney Junior. We continue to say, how do we take advantage of this reach to help feed the comic book business and grow and sustain that readership base? No, I don't buy that our broadening caused a decrease in readership. You can find a specific book to maybe say that story didn't resonate, but I don't buy that argument. Now, I will say that I think he's right and wrong here. I do think that you could broaden appeal and broaden the demographic without alienating the older audience. And as he kind of says, look, that's on us if that doesn't work. And let's face it, it hasn't worked. I mean, he can sit there and say, oh, all sales are fine or sales are in a good place. Well, if that's the reason, then why don't you make the sales public anymore? Buckley is a very smart publishing executive who's run Marvel through some turbulent times in the past. Whatever else you may think, he knows the pain points the industry is facing. Marvel had the benefit of being the number one publisher for decade after decade, and then being attached to the hottest property in all media for 15 years. But there's a sense that things will evolve, but in ways that are still a bit uncertain. We're looking at things slightly differently, Buckley says. We're approaching things differently. We feel like we're in a better position to help grow the industry as a whole for a variety of different reasons, but I prefer not to get into it. So, what I get from this article is that nothing is going to change. They're going to continue the approach they've taken over the last, 7 years or so, and nothing is going to change. Which, hey, that's their choice. But you can't fix a problem if you aren't willing to admit that the problem exists, or at least what's really causing the problem. And it's not that the pandemic drove people away. Yes, that did have an effect, but we're 2 years out of the pandemic now, and we're still trying to claim that's the reason traffic in stores is down. That's the reason the Wednesday Warriors, as Buckley likes to say, aren't returning to stores. This is probably the closest Buckley and the geniuses that run Marvel will ever get to admitting that they've wrecked their industry. They'll never admit that they drove the Wednesday Warriors away through a combination of arrogance, contempt, and ineptitude. And they think that they can still woo that audience back. And, look, who knows? Maybe they're right. But this is part of the problem and why they still won't change what they're doing, because they still think that in the end, the fanboys are going to come crawling back to buy Marvel Comics again. If they just give some lip service about Wednesday Warriors and how important they are, and pretend to actually give a crap about what their audience wants. But it's really just still going to be the same old crap. They're not changing. He said as much. And at this point, I'm doubtful that there are enough fans left who would even come back in order for Marvel to recover from what they've done to themselves and their own business. The Wednesday Warrior days are gone, Dan, and they ain't coming back. At least not in the numbers that Marvel would need in order to turn their current tailspin around. And Marvel, as well as DC and the rest of the industry, have no one to blame for this but themselves. Now, do you think that they can turn this mess around? Or am I right and it's too late? Let me know in the comments, and please like this video and sub to the channel. And also please check out some of my other videos while you're here, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.